Welcome back to the Deep Dives, where we take earnings calls and really dig into them and try to understand what's going on with the company.
Yeah.
Today, we are going to be looking at Medtronic's Q3 2025 performance. And oh boy, there's a lot to talk about.
It really was a great quarter for them. They're showing some pretty consistent growth and some exciting new developments are happening.
Yeah.
Let's start with the big picture. So Medtronic marked its 9th consecutive quarter of mid-single-digit revenue growth.
Nice.
Yeah. And this has led to strong earnings power with high single-digit EPS growth, which actually exceeded analysts' expectations.
So they're consistently delivering, but what's really interesting to me is how they're achieving this growth. It's not just coming from like one big blockbuster product, but multiple different segments are performing well.
Exactly. That diversification is really key for a company like Medtronic. It helps them mitigate risk and provides multiple avenues for growth.
Right.
So let's dive into some of these high-performing segments, starting with their cardiovascular portfolio. Overall, it saw mid-single-digit growth, but there are some real standouts in there.
Yeah, their cardiac ablation solutions business was on fire this quarter.
It really was.
A whopping 22% growth.
Wow.
Fueled by the success of their PulseField Ablation products. So what's going on with this surge in PFA adoption?
Well, PFA is a newer technology for treating atrial fibrillation, which is a pretty common heart rhythm disorder. And it offers some advantages over more traditional ablation methods, like it's faster and potentially safer.
Interesting.
Yeah, Medtronic has been strategically investing in this space, and it's really starting to pay off.
They actually have two different PFA platforms, Afra and PulseSelect.
They do.
Is that common to have like two different systems for this same procedure?
It's not the norm, but it's a pretty smart move for them. It allows them to cater to different physician preferences and potentially capture a larger share of the market. Yeah, PulseSelect is a single-shot solution that's gaining traction globally because of how easy it is to use, while Afra is a more advanced platform with integrated mapping and dual ablation capabilities.
So they're offering options, which is great, covering all their bases. But PFA isn't the only thing driving their cardiovascular portfolio's success. Their structural heart segment also saw a high single-digit growth, excluding congenital cases.
Right.
What's fueling that?
Their Evolut FX Plus TAVR system has been a key driver of that.
TAVR.
So TAVR stands for transcatheter aortic valve replacement.
Okay.
It's a minimally invasive procedure for replacing a diseased heart valve, and Medtronic's Evolut system has been gaining adoption both in the U.S. and internationally.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they're innovating in both the ablation and valve replacement spaces, but there's another development in the cardiovascular portfolio that I found particularly interesting, their Simplicity blood pressure procedure.
Oh, yes. This is their move into renal denervation, and it could be a game changer for treating uncontrolled high blood pressure. The procedure actually targets nerves in the kidneys that are involved in regulating blood pressure.
Oh, wow. That sounds pretty radical. Like, how does it actually work?
It's a minimally invasive procedure where a catheter is inserted into the artery in the leg and guided up to the kidneys. Then, radiofrequency energy is used to ablate or disrupt those targeted nerves.
So it's not a drug or a lifestyle change. It's a one-time procedure that's aiming to basically reset the body's blood pressure system.
Exactly.
That's amazing. But, does it actually work?
Well, early studies have shown some really promising results with significant reductions in blood pressure in patients who just haven't responded to medication. Of course, more research is needed to really confirm its long-term efficacy and safety.
Yeah, it makes sense. But I see why people are so excited about it, because it has the potential to address such a huge unmet need. High blood pressure affects millions of people around the world.
Definitely. And Medtronic is making great strides in bringing this therapy to market. They've achieved important milestones recently, like getting Medicare coding and payment implementation. And CMS has actually initiated a national coverage analysis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they're setting everything up for widespread adoption. Once Medicare coverage kicks in, this could become a huge growth driver for them.
Absolutely. The potential market for this therapy is massive, and Medtronic is well positioned to, really capitalize on it. But we can't forget about their other portfolios. Their neuroscience portfolio also saw mid-single-digit growth with some impressive performances in there as well.
Right. Their cranial and spinal technologies segment, which focuses on spine surgery, shows that they're not just a player in that market. They dominate.
Yeah, they really do. What's crazy is how they're maintaining that dominance in a field that's constantly evolving. Spine surgery is becoming more complex and technology-driven all the time, but Medtronic is staying ahead of the curve. They're coming out with innovations like AI-driven pre-op planning software, robotics, and really advanced imaging techniques.
So they're not just sitting back and watching. They're actively pushing the boundaries of what's possible. They want to be the best, not just the biggest.
Exactly. They're investing in the future of spine surgery and making sure they remain the go-to provider for surgeons and hospitals.
And then there's their neuromodulation segment, which saw 13% growth.
Yeah.
That's huge. What drove that?
Their advancements in closed-loop sensing technology for pain and brain modulation are playing a big role in that.
Okay.
These technologies are revolutionizing how we treat conditions like chronic pain and movement disorders.
I've heard about closed-loop systems, but can you explain how those work? It sounds so futuristic.
Essentially, it creates a feedback loop between the device and the body. The device is constantly monitoring the patient's condition and adjusting the therapy as needed. So, for example, their Inceptive closed-loop spinal cord stimulator for chronic pain uses sensors to actually detect nerve signals and can adjust the stimulation in real time.
Wow. So it's basically like having a little computer inside your body that's constantly optimizing your therapy. That's incredible. They're using this technology for brain modulation as well.
Yeah, their Percept DBS system for Parkinson's disease and other movement disorders uses a similar approach. It senses brain activity and adjusts the simulation to help improve motor control and reduce symptoms.
It's amazing how these devices are learning and adapting to each individual patient.
It is. It's really a big step forward in how we treat these really complex conditions.
Yeah.
And Medtronic is really a leader in this innovation. But we can't just focus on all the good stuff. We have to address the challenges too.
Right. No company's perfect. What kind of headwinds is Medtronic facing?
Well, their medical surgical portfolio hit a bit of a snag this quarter. Their surgical business faced some challenges because of a change in U.S. distributor buying patterns.
Oh, so a disruption in the supply chain. That can be a big problem.
It was, and it did impact their growth, but Medtronic expects this to resolve in the next fiscal year.
Okay.
And it's important to note that end customer purchasing remains stable, so it really seems like it was just a timing issue, not a fundamental problem.
So a speed bump, not a roadblock.
Exactly.
And they have some other growth drivers in this segment that could help offset this temporary setback, right?
They do. Their Hugo robotic platform is getting close to some major milestones, including an FDA submission for urology indications and the completion of enrollment in hernia and benign GYN studies.
I've been hearing a lot about surgical robots. How does Hugo stack up against the competition?
It's a modular system designed to be more versatile and cost-effective than some of the other platforms that are already out there. Yeah, Medtronic is positioning it as a solution for a wider range of procedures and for more hospitals.
So they're trying to make robotic surgery more accessible.
Right.
That's a smart strategy because the market for these systems is growing really quickly.
Exactly. And they're not stopping there. Medtronic is also initiating a GYN oncology study and adding new features to the Hugo system like ICG fluorescent imaging and ligature vessel sealing technology.
Wow. So they're continuing to innovate and enhance their offerings. It's clear that they're committed to making Hugo a success. And it has the potential to really contribute to their surgical business in the coming years.
It really does. They're betting big on robotic surgery, and I think it's a bet that could really pay off if they execute their strategy well.
We've covered a lot about Medtronic's performance, but there's one more segment we need to talk about. Diabetes.
Yes.
This is a huge market, and Medtronic is a major player.
They are, and they're continuing to deliver strong results. They achieved their 5th consecutive quarter of double-digit growth in diabetes, reaching an impressive 10%.
Wow, that's a consistent record of success. What's driving that growth? Is it new product launches or are they gaining market share?
It's kind of a combination of both. The market is shifting away from standalone continuous glucose monitors, CGMs, to automated insulin delivery systems or AID systems. And Medtronic is taking advantage of that shift with their MiniMed 780G system.
So they're offering a more comprehensive solution for managing diabetes.
Right.
And that makes sense because people want ways to simplify their lives and improve their health outcomes.
Exactly. And Medtronic is in a great position to meet that demand. They're also investing a lot in their diabetes technology pipeline. So we can expect to see next-gen durable pumps, patch pumps, smart pens, and even more advanced algorithms down the line.
Wow, they're really covering all their bases there. It sounds like they're determined to stay a leader in this space.
They are, and they're not just focused on type 1 diabetes. They're also trying to get expanded labeling for the 780G to include type 2 diabetes, which is
Yeah.
a massive potential market.
Right, because type 2 diabetes is way more common than type 1. That could really expand their reach.
It's a smart move, and it could pay off big time if they can get the approvals they need.
So we've covered a lot about Medtronic, and it seems like they're firing on all cylinders. They're showing consistent growth and a commitment to innovation. But what does it all mean? What's the takeaway for investors?
It means that Medtronic is a company worth watching. They're in a massive and growing healthcare market, and they have a diverse portfolio that's performing well.
Right.
And they're really showing that they understand where the market is going, investing in cutting-edge technologies like PFA, renal denervation, and closed-loop neuromodulation.
And they're not just chasing trends, they're developing solutions to real problems that improve people's lives.
Exactly. It's a powerful combination. And their financial discipline means they have the resources to fuel this growth and keep delivering value to shareholders.
Yeah. So if you're looking for a company with a strong track record, a bright future, and a commitment to actually making a difference in the world, Medtronic is definitely worth checking out. But we're not done yet. It's time for the part of the show everyone loves. This is not financial advice where we let our imaginations run wild and come up with an outrageous but plausible trade idea based on what we've learned.
Remember, everyone, this is all hypothetical, just for fun. We're not financial advisors, so don't take this as investment advice.
All right, so with that disclaimer out of the way, let's have some fun. What if Medtronic became the Apple of healthcare?
The Apple of healthcare. Wow, that's a bold statement. What do you mean by that?
Well, think about it. Apple created this seamless ecosystem of devices and services that people love. They made technology intuitive, stylish, and really integrated it into our daily lives.
Okay, I see where you're going. You're thinking Medtronic could do something similar in the healthcare world.
Exactly. What if they created a platform that connects all of their devices and therapies, allowing patients to manage their health holistically?
So instead of having different apps and systems for managing your diabetes, heart condition, or pain, you'd have one central hub where you can track your data, talk to your doctor, and receive personalized recommendations.
Exactly. Like having your own personal health assistant, powered by Medtronic's expertise and cutting-edge technology.
That's an ambitious idea, but I don't think it's completely impossible. Medtronic already has a lot of the pieces in place with their diverse portfolio of devices and therapies.
Right. And they have a really strong track record of innovation.
Yeah.
They could build on what they already have to create this really cool, interconnected healthcare ecosystem.
Of course, there would be some challenges, things like data privacy, regulatory hurdles, and making sure everything works together.
But those are not insurmountable obstacles. If anyone can figure it out, it would be a company like Medtronic.
It would be a game changer for the entire industry. Just imagine the possibilities of having all your health data seamlessly integrated and accessible.
Yeah, it could completely change how we manage our health, leading to better outcomes and a more personalized approach to care.
It's a bold idea, but I think it's worth exploring. Who knows, maybe Medtronic will actually become the Apple of healthcare one day.
Yeah, that's what This Is Not Financial Advice is all about. Thinking outside the box and really imagining the future. But remember, everyone, this is just a thought experiment. Don't go out and buy a ton of Medtronic stock just because of this conversation.
Right, we're just having a little fun and exploring some possibilities.
Yeah,
But hey, stranger things have happened in the world of technology and healthcare.
that's for sure. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into Medtronic's Q3 2025 performance.
We've gone over their financials, their key growth drivers, and even came up with a wild trade idea.
But this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
We'll be back soon with part 2, where we're going to delve even deeper into Medtronic's financials and break down their strategic priorities.
So stay tuned for even more insights and analysis.
And until then, keep those brains buzzing.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're picking up where we left off with Medtronic, and this time we're going to really dig into their financials and see what's driving their success.
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty. We know they're doing well, but how are they managing their money to keep this growth going and make their investors happy?
Well, one key factor is their disciplined approach to pricing. They're not just slashing prices to compete, they're being strategic, setting prices that reflect the actual value their products and therapies offer.
That makes sense. It's all about finding the right balance between staying competitive and keeping profits up.
Exactly. And they're also keeping a tight control on their SG&A expenses, making sure that growth stays below their sales growth, which shows they're all about operational efficiency.
So they're being smart about where they put their resources, not just throwing money around. That's probably a big reason why they've been able to achieve those impressive COGS efficiencies we talked about earlier.
Precisely. They've been very focused on improving their gross margins, and it's showing results. This gives them more flexibility to invest in those exciting growth drivers we discussed earlier.
It's like a positive feedback loop. Strong earnings lead to more innovation, which drives further growth and boosts profitability. It's a great recipe for long-term success.
And they're not just sitting on those earnings. Medtronic is committed to giving back to shareholders through dividends and share repurchases.
That's always good news for investors. But they're also looking beyond just internal investments, right?
Absolutely. They're actively looking for those tuck-in acquisitions, smaller strategic deals to strengthen their portfolio and boost their growth.
Tuck-in acquisitions. So you mean like smaller strategic deals rather than these massive mergers?
Exactly. They're not trying to make a huge splash with some big risky merger. They're being more targeted. Looking for companies that complement their existing strengths and filling any gaps they have.
It's like adding just the right spices to a dish that's already delicious. Just a little bit here and there to enhance the flavor and make it even better.
I like that analogy. And they're not just buying companies randomly. They're really analyzing each potential acquisition to make sure it makes sense for shareholders and adds value.
So it's clear that Medtronic is thinking about the long game. They're not just focused on making a quick buck. They're focused on building a sustainable, profitable business for the long haul.
Exactly. And they're doing that by finding that perfect balance between investment and return. They're funding innovation while also delivering solid earnings and giving back to shareholders.
It's like the dream combination for investors. But let's shift gears a bit and go back to some of those specific growth drivers we discussed earlier, starting with cardiac ablation solutions and that incredible 22% growth.
Yeah, that growth is truly impressive and really shows the potential of their PulseField Ablation technology. PFA is quickly becoming the preferred treatment for atrial fibrillation, and Medtronic is leading the way.
They're actually projecting that CAS will be a billion-dollar business for them this fiscal year alone. And they're already looking ahead to it becoming a $2 billion business.
It really shows their vision and how well they execute. They saw the potential of PFA early on and made strategic investments to become a major player in this area.
And as we talked about before, they have two different PFA platforms, Affera and PulseSelect. This gives them a lot of flexibility and reach in the market.
Definitely. They're not limiting themselves to just one approach, which is really smart in a market that's changing as quickly as this one.
But it's not just about the tech itself. It's also about how this therapy is impacting people's lives.
Absolutely. PFA is a game changer for people dealing with atrial fibrillation. It's a minimally invasive procedure that's faster, more precise, and potentially safer than traditional methods.
It helps people get back to their lives faster and with less risk. That's the kind of innovation that really makes a difference.
And Medtronic isn't stopping there. They're continuing to invest in research and development to make their PFA offerings even better and reach more people.
It's great to see a company so dedicated to pushing the limits of what's possible in healthcare. But let's switch gears to another groundbreaking therapy, the Symplicity blood pressure procedure.
Ah, yes. Their move into renal denervation. This has the potential to really shake things up when it comes to treating uncontrolled high blood pressure. And this condition affects millions of people globally.
Yeah, and it's often tough to manage with just medication alone. So can you remind us how this Symplicity procedure works and what makes it so different?
So it targets those nerves in the kidneys that control blood pressure regulation. The procedure is minimally invasive. A catheter is inserted into an artery in the leg and guided up to the kidneys.
Okay, so it's a very targeted approach, going right to the source of the problem.
Exactly. Once the catheter reaches the kidneys, radiofrequency energy is used to ablate or disrupt those targeted nerves.
So this ablation, it's like resetting the body's blood pressure system.
That's the idea. It's like hitting the reset button on those overactive nerves that are causing high blood pressure.
It almost sounds too good to be true. But what does the data say? Is there evidence that this actually works?
Early studies are showing promising results, with significant drops in blood pressure in patients who just weren't responding well to medication. But of course, more research is needed to really confirm its long-term effectiveness and safety.
Yeah, that's understandable. It's still a new therapy, so it's going to take time to gather all the data.
Yeah.
But the potential is definitely there.
Absolutely. If the Simplicity procedure lives up to the hype, it could completely change how we treat high blood pressure. And Medtronic is moving quickly to bring it to market.
They hit some big milestones, haven't they?
They have. They've secured Medicare coding and payment, and CMS is already doing a national coverage analysis.
That's huge. It means they're paving the way for this to be widely adopted. Once Medicare coverage kicks in, this could become a massive growth driver for them.
The market for this is enormous, and Medtronic is in a great position to take advantage of it. They're investing a lot in clinical trials and building relationships with physicians.
It's exciting to see a company taking on such a common health issue with a truly innovative solution. But let's not forget their other growth engines. Neuromodulation is another area where Medtronic is making big moves.
For sure. This segment is really booming, with that impressive 13% growth driven by their advancements in closed-loop sensing technology.
Closed-loop systems. It sounds straight out of science fiction. Can you remind us how this technology works and why it's so groundbreaking?
Imagine a device that not only treats a condition, but also constantly learns and adapts to the patient's needs in real time. That's basically what these systems do.
So it's not just a one-size-fits-all treatment, it's personalized and changes based on how the patient is responding.
Exactly. Take their Inceptive closed-loop spinal cord stimulator for chronic pain. It uses sensors to detect nerve signals and then adjusts the stimulation accordingly.
So it's like having a tiny computer inside your body, making sure your therapy is working as well as it can. That's amazing. And they're using this in brain modulation too.
Yes, their Percept DBS system for Parkinson's and other movement disorders uses a similar approach. It picks up on brain activity and adjusts the stimulation to improve motor control and reduce those symptoms.
It's like fine-tuning the brain, making sure it's working properly for each individual.
That's a good way to put it. These closed-loop systems are revolutionizing how we treat these incredibly complex conditions, and Medtronic is leading the pack.
It's inspiring to see how technology can be used to improve people's lives in such a profound way. But we can't forget their surgical business. Despite that little hiccup we talked about earlier, they still have a few things driving growth in this segment.
Like their Hugo robotic platform, which is hitting some big milestones. They're on track for an FDA submission for urology, and they've finished enrolling patients in hernia and benign GYN studies.
I'm curious to see how Hugo stacks up against the competition in the surgical robotics field. It's a pretty crowded space, but Medtronic has a history of success.
They're marketing Hugo as a more adaptable and affordable option, which could be attractive to a lot of hospitals and surgeons.
And they're constantly adding new features and capabilities to the system. They're obviously serious about making Hugo a winner.
They are. And let's not forget about their diabetes segment, which is another shining star in their portfolio.
Absolutely. They've had 5 quarters in a row of double-digit growth in this market. That's a pretty impressive streak.
Their MiniMed 780G system is a leader in the automated insulin delivery market, and they're not slowing down on the innovation front with new sensors and other things in development.
It sounds like they're doing everything right in diabetes, offering a comprehensive solution, investing in R&D, and trying to expand their reach to more patients.
Exactly. It's a recipe for continued success. And it shows their ability to adapt to changes in the market and stay ahead of the competition.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into Medtronic's financials and growth drivers, but we're not done yet.
There's still more to explore, and we'll be back soon with part 3 to continue the conversation.
Stay tuned as we take an even closer look at Medtronic's strategic priorities, and maybe even cook up some more outrageous but plausible trade ideas.
Until then, keep those brains buzzing.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We spent the last 2 parts really digging into Medtronic's performance. Their financials are looking good, their growth drivers are strong, and they're making smart moves to set themselves up for success in the future.
Yeah, it's clear they're a company that's not standing still. They're always evolving and adapting to the ever-changing world of healthcare.
But what does that mean practically? What are their main priorities going forward?
That's the big question, right? It's one thing to have great products and a solid financial base, but it's another to have a clear vision for the future.
Exactly.
Well, one of Medtronic's key priorities is staying ahead of the game in key therapy areas. They've pinpointed several growth drivers like cardiac ablation solutions, renal denervation, and neuromodulation, where they see huge potential.
So they're focusing on what's working and investing where they have a competitive edge.
Exactly. They're not afraid to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to technologies they think will revolutionize healthcare.
And it's not just about coming up with new products, it's about expanding their reach and making their therapies more accessible.
That's right. They're working on expanding the labeling for their existing products, exploring new markets, and building partnerships to have a bigger impact.
It's a comprehensive approach to growth. They're looking at the whole picture, not just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly. And that leads us to another one of their top priorities, digital transformation.
Ah, yes, the buzzword of the century. But with Medtronic, it's more than just talk.
Oh, absolutely. They're investing heavily in digital health solutions like remote patient monitoring, data analytics, and artificial intelligence.
So they're using technology to enhance their existing therapies, improve patient outcomes, and create new streams of revenue.
Exactly. They understand that data is becoming increasingly important in healthcare, and they're positioning themselves to be a leader in that space.
Which makes sense because the line between medical devices and software is getting blurrier all the time.
Right. And let's not forget about their commitment to sustainability.
Yeah, that's an important aspect that often gets overlooked. How is Medtronic approaching sustainability?
Well, they've set some ambitious goals to reduce their environmental impact and operate in a way that's socially responsible.
So they're not just focused on making money. They're thinking about the impact they're having on the world.
They're taking a big picture view of their business, recognizing that being a responsible corporate citizen is essential to long-term success.
It's good to see a company that's not just talking about sustainability, but actually taking action.
They're walking the walk. It's clear they're in it for the long haul, making decisions that will benefit not just their shareholders, but society as a whole.
That's a perspective that should appeal to investors who want to support companies that are both profitable and purpose-driven.
Definitely. Medtronic is proving that you can do well by doing good.
We've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into Medtronic. We've looked at their financials, their growth drivers, their strategic priorities, and even threw around some wild trade ideas.
We have, but before we wrap up, I think it's time for one last round of this is not financial advice.
I knew you'd say that. All right, let's let loose and see where our imaginations take us.
Yeah.
What if Medtronic became the ultimate healthcare concierge?
The ultimate healthcare concierge. Interesting. Tell me more.
Imagine a world where Medtronic doesn't just provide devices and therapies, but becomes a one-stop shop for all your healthcare needs.
So you're thinking they'd expand to offer things like personalized health coaching, virtual doctor visits, and even home healthcare services.
Exactly. They could use their existing network of healthcare professionals, their data analytics capabilities, and their digital health platform to create a truly seamless and comprehensive healthcare experience.
It would be like having your own personal health assistant, always there to guide you and support your well-being.
And they could personalize their services to meet each individual's needs, from preventive care to managing chronic conditions to end-of-life care.
It's a bold idea, but it fits with the trend towards more personalized and convenient healthcare.
People want healthcare solutions that are tailored to their specific needs and easier to access, and Medtronic is in a great position to provide that.
Of course, there would be some hurdles, things like regulations, privacy concerns, and building the infrastructure to support all of this.
True, but those are not insurmountable challenges. Medtronic has the resources, the expertise, and the vision to make it happen.
It would be a game changer for the entire industry. Imagine a healthcare system that's no longer confusing and fragmented, but seamless and empowering for patients.
That's a future worth aiming for, and Medtronic could be leading the charge.
That's what This Is Not Financial Advice is all about. Exploring possibilities and envisioning a better future for healthcare.
Well said. And with that, it's time to wrap up our deep dive into Medtronic.
We've explored a lot, but the conversation doesn't have to end here.
We encourage everyone to do their own research, stay curious, and keep those brains buzzing.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Until next time.